We all agreed it would be great to connect one-on-one with as many members as possible. We wanted the opportunity to thank each of you for previous gifts, hear why you give, and ask you for a pledge for next year. Each of those things is important. It's been many years since we thanked members, member to member, for making this community possible. And it was wonderful to hear how and why this community is important to you. And it was inspiring to find ourselves comfortable enough with each other that we could encourage you about a pledge for next year. Now that you've made most of the calls, we still have more to go, I can tell you it was truly a wonderful experience. It was long and a bit tiring, and we all had moments when we felt like a nuisance leaving multiple messages. But when we finally chatted with one of you, it was all worth it and spurred us on to make more calls. This morning we'd like to give you an update on the campaign and share some of the stories we heard. We've actually not finished all the calls, and we have a couple people with whom we've made plans to talk or email this coming week. For many more of you, if we are unable to reach you, we have a sorry we missed you letter that's going out. The back side of the letter has a place to jot down your story and a place to record your pledge for 2014. If you received this letter and brought it with you today, you can place it in the offering plate or give it to me after church. If you haven't received it, you should see it early this week. I also placed some blank ones in the back at the church, and feel free to help yourself. So if you don't receive a call for some reason, please call me. It's a mistake, and we don't want to leave anybody out. We don't have all the pledges in yet, of course, but so far we have about 87 pledges. 31 of those pledges include an increase over last year, and several more are still considering what increase they can do. And we have $18,000 of new pledges, so that's good news. We'd like to share all of the stories, but we're saving some of them for use throughout the year. This morning we'd like to summarize some recurrent themes and highlight a few specific stories for your listening pleasure. The Bible verse that we just heard from Luke aligns perfectly with many of your responses. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. Many of you said what is meaningful about Trinity is the love you receive, the welcoming atmosphere, and the Christian fellowship. Just as the verse says, when we give and give well, it is given back to us just as well, perhaps even better. Many of you also said that you find the music here at Trinity to be uplifting. And many of you also find John's sermons to be the highlight of your week. We draw so much from our time here together. Now, Steve Sheffield and Steve Hayes, two members of our team, would like to share with you a few individual stories, some with names and some without. Steve Sheffield called on Christina and Gary Stone during the campaign and was moved by their story. Steve asked Gary to share their story personally, and he's agreed to do that. After Gary speaks, Steve will share another story, and then we'll hear from Steve Hayes. And after he shares a few, I will take my turn. So, Gary.
Morning again. Back in 1992, I was a divorced man, 2 young kids, and a fiance that I was looking to marry. And the church that I grew up in Springfield would not marry me because I had been previously married. It was a church I grew up in, I served in, my parents served in, but all of a sudden we felt pushed out, we felt rejected. Just because I was divorced, they would not marry me or welcome me back. So we began a search. I grew up in Springfield, I knew of Trinity, I'd never been here before, so I figured, why not? Let's take a look, see what's inside. I was in awe of the sanctuary and kind of found my way up to the offices on the 2nd or 3rd floor there one day when I had a day off. And I was looking through brochures just to get a feel for the church. And a man came out and he says, "Can I help you?" And I was trying to fly in under the radar. I really didn't want to make any, draw any attention to me. And I said, "No, I'm fine." And he says, "Well, I'm the pastor of the church here. Can I help you? I can answer any questions." And I said, "All right, Pastor, well, let me put it out there for you. I'm a divorced father. I have 2 kids. I'm engaged. I'm looking to get married and find a church that will accept us." And he smiled. This is Lloyd Corpening. Lloyd said, "Of course you will. We welcome everybody here at Trinity, because many of the people in our congregation are just like you, and I really hope that you can join us for a service." So that Sunday, Christina and I came to church. we remember, as we reflected back, we remember our very first day, who was the very first person to welcome us here at Trinity. That person's here today, and I'm glad he is. It's Alan Harwood. Yes. Alan greeted us in the back of the church with a big smile and a firm handshake like he does with most of you most Sundays, and sat us down in the pew. After the church service, he came back, greeted us again, invited us back again, and we came back. And the following Sunday, it was the same thing over and over again. We really felt welcome here. Lloyd said all were welcome, and Lloyd was right. Now somehow, I don't know if it was Alan direct or Alan worked it through the board set committee, but we got a couple of board set tickets that were complimentary given to us. We'd never been before, so we attended that event. And once we saw that crazy presentation, we realized that Lloyd was right, and we pretty much do let anybody in these All of a sudden, we felt at home. Christina and I were married here on these stairs in 1993, I'm sorry. 20 years ago. So we had our 20th anniversary this month. We had 4 kids raised in this church through the youth programs. Monica, I think Chris and Nicole were in your first group. Thank you very much. Monica's been like family to us and our children since the time we were here and the kids got involved with the youth programs. Our daughter Julia was sang with the Chamberettes this morning. She's the youngest. Our son Chris, the oldest, is up filming the services for Sunday for the local TV station. So they all take an active part in church. Those of you who were here in 2003, 2007, for those 5 years I had a terrible battle with leukemia. I kept coming back every year. We didn't know what was going on. There were 2 times during that period where I almost lost my life. We honestly believe, my family, that because of the prayers and the support that we received from this congregation and this church, that I am here today. We also are a much stronger family because of the stories that you shared with us. We're stronger because you allowed us to serve. We're stronger because our kids were raised with your support. If you want to serve, this is the place to be. Trinity not only accepted our family, you became our family over the years. For that, we're very grateful. Thank you.
That's a great story, and I only have one correction to Gary's story. I did some checking, Gary, and those complimentary tickets weren't. Delightful to be seeing you. Gary's story was great, and I appreciate him sharing it with you. I just wanted to add, append his story. His dad, Ray Stone, came to follow Gary and his family to Trinity. After retiring and moving back to Western Mass, Ray came to Trinity with his family, followed his family here. And in return, Ray has found a family of faith in which his life has been enriched. And I appreciate, Ray, that you've allowed me to share your story. And in addition to worshiping with the family Stone, he's worshiped with the family Trinity. And in addition to lay ministries, Ray has found great joy and comfort in the groups Boar's Head and the Rock of Ages. So it's where one family has led to another. I think all of us that called heard a lot of stories about powerful sermons. And many of you that sit out in the congregation, myself included, are awed by the powerful music program. And I guess this is preaching to the choir. One choir member shared the story when they found Trinity. They came to visit during the Lenten season, and were just so impressed with the music program that after the service went and came up and spoke with Becky about the music program, and geez, would there ever be the opportunity they would like to participate in the choir. And he sang in the choir for Easter. And finally, another member shared with me, well, many people did, but one story stuck in my mind. A member pointed out and recalled how wonderful and significant Monica was to their children, and spent considerable time, if I quote semi-correctly, both on and off the job, enriching their children's life, and that was a meaningful part to this parent and to their children. Steve?
Thank you for the chance to share some stories with you. It was a privilege to do this phoning, and I can't tell you what fun it is to ask for an increase in a pledge. It's exciting and it's thrilling and it's something that needs to be done. And most everybody I spoke to did have an increase. Interesting in the phoning, I did this about 20 years ago. And if you asked, what I kept hearing at that time was that the building and the beauty of the building was so central to people's faith. That was repeated many, many times. In this phoning, I never heard that. I heard that central to the faith was Pastor John's wonderful ministry and the love and support of people that make up the church family. I heard not a word about the building. It's not that people don't love it and appreciate it, but that wasn't central to their faith anymore, and I think that's quite a remarkable transition. Some stories. I spoke with one longtime member who joined the church in 1930 as a 12-year-old. It was here when the building was built, and she's had membership here for 85 years. I spoke with another person whose 4 generations had received baptisms, participated in weddings, funerals, and that continuity of family membership over a long period of years, about 80 years, was quite inspiring. Spoke with one member who had need for surgery in Boston. The surgery was going to take place at 6 o'clock in the morning. How was he going to get there for the surgery? Well, a couple in our church offered to drive him to Boston. They got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, drove this gentleman to his operation, and provided that support for him. And my last example is a member who was diagnosed with cancer, and about 6 months later it was in remission. But he said that during his that 6 months he received so many cards that it averaged about 1 card a day over a 6-month period, and the majority of them were from Trinity members. So that kind of story predominated in my calling, and it's quite a wonderful thing to do. I suggest you try it sometime. Thank you.
Thanks, Dad. I enjoyed these calls too. Now I know where I get that from. I would like to share just a few more stories. This one was emailed to me. She wasn't sure if it's what we were looking for, but I thought it was great. She wrote, about 8 years ago, a very close friend of mine's son shot himself in the head and was close to death. To make a long story short, I spent 4 days with the family in an intensive care unit doing whatever needed to be done to help this family through the ordeal. By Saturday night, it was clear this young man, 20, was going to pull through. That Sunday, I went to church exhausted and thankful and very fragile after holding other people up for so many days. I sat down in church and held on to the wooden bench like my life depended on it. Through that wood, I felt the love and support that Trinity members provide to each other. When I think of that morning, I can still remember the feel of the smooth wood under my hand. and the relief I felt to be home and cared for after such an intense period of caregiving. I spoke with another couple who, when they first got together, had the goal of getting out of the restaurant business so that they could have a normal schedule. For her, that meant coming back to Trinity, her childhood church. Eventually, they did exit the restaurant business, and she brought him here. He was the first of the two of them to become involved in the Boar's Head. It was very meaningful to her to watch her husband assimilate into this community, be accepted, and begin to make his own connections without her. Back when she was young, she was very shy, and Trinity helped her come out of her shell. It was a safe place. It was a dream come true for both of them to now be raising their children here, knowing they will have the same experience of acceptance and love. I spoke with another member who said that Trinity saved his life. He attended school at Forest Park Middle School and used to look across the street and wish that he could be a part of this place. Later, he was dating the niece of a member, so he came here with her. He says that Trinity has turned his life around and saved him from probably ending up in jail. He has a home and a life thanks to the continued support of our church community. I spoke with another member who was raised Catholic. She was upset with the Catholic Church and with God, and she had a lot of anger. She was driving by Trinity with her 6-year-old granddaughter, who asked if they could go to the children's Christmas service. She brought both her granddaughters, and they loved it. Then they asked if they could attend church school. The grandmother sighed, but obliged, bringing the girls and waiting patiently outside the Sunday school room. While waiting there, she began to chat with Reverend Margaret Goza. From there, she was drawn into our community and has never left. Over the years, she has worked through her anger and found Trinity a great place of comfort during the recent loss of her son. Her granddaughters, by the way, and their parents also joined the church and are active members. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of speaking with another member whose life here at Trinity is enriched by Pastor John. She appreciates Pastor John, as she said, just being himself. She added that she also appreciates his sense of humor, and we had a good time chatting about John's children's messages when he wore the Technicolor dream coat, and another time tossed a banana peel into the chancel. Good times and good lessons. When we were planning what to share this morning, Pastor John asked me if I'd like to share my story. I froze for a second and thought to myself, wow, I have absolutely no idea what I would say. I put that thought aside and started making calls. And I'd like to thank you all, because it was not only wonderful, but helpful to hear your stories. Each time I heard or read about something that enriches life here for you, I would think, oh, yes, that's true for me too. Or when I heard how many of you came to Trinity, I thought that if I came here as an adult, I would be drawn in by those same things. As many of you know, I don't remember coming to this church for the first time. I've just always been here. And I've always been involved with many programs and committees here, and I've never thought about why. I guess Trinity has always been like a strong, slow, and steady-moving train ride for me. I've always wanted to be on the train, knew it felt right, and never questioned where it was going. Speaking with many of you this past week has helped me understand this train ride a bit better. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. It's made a big difference for me, and maybe to other train riders out there too. In closing, I'd like to share one last story. A member sent this to me in an email, and I think it explains perfectly how I feel about my fellow train passengers. She writes, there are times at Trinity when I'm keenly aware of just how bound together we all are. Maybe it's getting ready for All Saints Day, maybe it's watching all of our children grow, or maybe it's just something that slides into focus in certain moments. Part of it is how strongly we value the intergenerational connections in our congregation. Part of it is how we continue to be a village to raise our children. I think part of it is the collective realization that at some point we are all carried by our congregation. For all of us, there can be times when we do the carrying, and times when the only way we have made it through is by the love and support of our congregation. There are times the sheer depth and breadth of this strength is overwhelming to me, especially as voices, faces, and stories are woven in over time, stretching so very far back and still reaching forward. I look forward to reading more stories as they come in over the next week or so. Thank you so much to the calling team, Steve, Alan, Denise, Allie, and Nicole. You gave so much time and effort to this campaign, and we reap the rewards of your efforts all later. Thank you very much to Pastor John for inspiring us and guiding us through this throughout the campaign. And thank you again to all of you. I really do feel blessed to be on Train Trinity. Longtime members and newer members, we have so much to offer each other. And how perfect that the next part of our service today is to celebrate our brand new members, the newest passengers on Train Trinity. Thank you.